As we were making our way to our resupply rendezvous, we received the final report on Scout 1121, the cruiser that was found abandoned near Data Tower 67 in the Razorstone Pass. There was no new physical evidence to report, and the conditions in the small flat that the Scout set down in wouldn't have allowed passage on foot very far in any direction, before encountering the pass impassable sheer formations in every direction. The only way a person on foot would be able to traverse those cliffs would be to climb with scaling hooks. But there were no telltale markings around the tops of any of the ledges that would be reachable by people on foot. And the scaling assemblies in the Scout were untouched and all accounted for. The ground in the area was no help, as the swirling winds would make quick work of any surface markings. In fact, there was a buildup of dust and dirt that had been packed in around one side of the cruiser by the heavy winds. In those conditions, footprints and light activity markings would be erased almost immediately. The only thing the weather couldn't touch was the inside of the cruiser, which looked no more disturbed, or the site of a crime, than it would if it was sitting at rest in a municipal holding flat. The evidence led the investigators to conclude that Scout 1121 had landed without incident. The Guardians then left the cruiser and lifted out of the area somehow in something by someone else. And as much as that was the only thing that made sense, aside from theories that would be more imagination than reasonable guessing, it didn't make sense at all. Some wondered if the Guardians had been grabbed by the operators of the road cruiser that was caught in the yak at Tower 59 and eventually crashed in a canyon in the expanse. It was determined that there were only 2 people in the road cruiser, and there would have to be at least 3 for that theory to hold any weight. So, again, apart from any exotic theories, it was not really a consideration that the missing Guardians might have been on that road cruiser. In fact, the way the sequence of events had progressed, the road cruiser was well on its way to Tower 59 by the time Scout 1121 had been called out to investigate after Tower 67 went offline. Communication can get very spotty this far north, so it was frustrating not to be able to reach everyone in the loop directly. I spoke a bit with Barris about it, and we also went over some of the details with a Level 3 Guardian investigator who was part of our search operators team. He agreed without hesitation. It was as if they had just ended their tour, landed and gone home, like they were in the middle of the Grand Valley, rather than an unhealthy wilderness. Still, it felt like they were related. And now, we had another Scout missing, and even further away from any possible help. In all the strange things that have happened while settling and expanding on this moon, we've never just had anybody disappear. Those 2 Guardians operators may be officially classified as missing, but they got out of their cruiser and left it behind. Whether by choice or by force, it's abandonment or perhaps they were abducted, but that isn't missing to me. Missing implies an accident or other involuntary fate. One way or another, the Guardians leaving their cruiser was a deliberate act. The answers would come soon enough, once someone on the inside of all of this was caught. It would likely take a series of impressions, but Snaptime usually makes quick work of taking down groups and organizations which act against our articles of civility. The criminals, as you call them, that we deal with on the moon are mostly activists and protesters. Like you have in your world, we have people who seem to scrutinize every aspect of our life here and do what they can to disrupt it, when traditional channels of change are exhausted or ignored by them entirely. We seldom deal with people who are breaking articles for prosperity. To be honest, our moon's industry and networks are just not developed to hide smuggling operations within. We do, however, have a lot of things smuggled into the colony, but that is regulated by different people, in conjunction with our related division on planet. And, to be honest, it could be eternal spins before I talk to any officials from the planet, and that would be fine with me. So, I don't know a whole lot about how that is controlled. I wondered if we might find the newly missing Scout 3641 in a similar state, abandoned and virtually unmolested. That thought made me close my eyes. But, if that would be something to address if and when it became reality. At this point, we didn't know where 3641 or its operators were to begin with, much less what condition they were in. We needed to find them. And with a lot of variables pressing down on us as we began.